Say hello to the phone of the year, the Pixel 9 Pro XL. And I've actually had a lot of issues trying to come up with and think about this because, first glance, as soon as people see this, they're going to be like, of course, he likes Pixel phones, so he's going to say the Pixel 9 Pro XL is the phone of the year. But I think I'm right. And I'm going to tell you why I think I'm right in this video. But before we get that, I want to thank today's sponsor, my wallet, because I, of course, bought the phone. But anyway, let's just get this out of the way. The top phones in the US, and this is not even a global one, because if you talk about global, like I know like 90% of my audience is here in the United States. You're not familiar with the Oppos, you're not familiar with the Vivos, you're not familiar with, I try to make you all aware because I cover them. But I got to say, if the Vivo was here in the United States, this sucker would be in strong contention for phone of the year. Amazing phone. I absolutely love this phone a lot. And I just got the global model, so I got another video coming on that soon. But this is kind of more focused on best phone in the US. So really the three options you kind of get are the S24 Ultra, the biggest, the best, the brightest that Samsung has to offer, right? This guy right here. And it's a good phone, but I'll talk about why I don't think it's phone of the year. And then also you got the iPhone 16 Pro Max. I don't think it's phone of the year. I don't think it's in the top four. It's just not been a very good phone. It's not even a finished product. Like, how are we going to sit here and say that this unfinished product and the Apple Intelligence is only halfway rolled out and it's just having issues? Like, it's not the best phone this year, and I don't ever really think it is. But yeah, the S24 Ultra would probably be the obvious choice. Snapdragon 8 Generation 3, 12 gigs of RAM, 256 storage, got the S Pen. And this is where I get into like kind of this inner turmoil discussing this stuff, because when it comes to the S24 Ultra, you have two things that really set this phone apart from anything else. And of course, that's DeX, their desktop software that you can use wirelessly or wired, which is nice. And then the S Pen. So that's why I made a separate video about this last week, saying the S24 Ultra is the most complete phone. And I don't really think anybody can argue with that. I think it is by far and away the most complete phone, just because those two extra elements. Plus, it's nice. You got the anti-glare display and 7 years of support. It's still on Android 14, by the way. It's been passed up by many different phones at this point who already have Android 15. But the camera's not perfect. The battery life certainly isn't perfect. When it first came out, it was better, and I was pretty impressed with it. But then after a couple software updates, the battery life kind of went to poop. And it's since recovered some, but the screen is not the best. I know it's got the anti-glare stuff, but we ran into issues with it at first, of course. People are like, the screen is grainy. It's not that bright. The contrast is off. I don't like the saturation. The night mode shots aren't that great. And a lot of people were pissed off that they switched from the 10 megapixel telephoto or 10 times telephoto to the 5 times, which I don't have a problem with that. I take more portrait shots than I do 100 times zoom shots. I think that's probably a more realistic scenario. So what are the drawbacks on the Pixel? And the biggest drawback people are going to point to is the Tensor. But I want to take a look at this because the S24 Ultra is not an inspiring phone. Same old. It's not revolutionary. It's not game-changing. It's just an iterative update. Same thing with the iPhone. And that's where I think I get a lot of the credit with the Pixel 9 series phones, particularly the Pixel 9 Pro and Pro XL, has changed the narrative. So many people have been happy about it. Their market share has basically doubled, almost tripled in just the last quarter since the phone has come out because it's been so popular. People like this phone. And the cameras, they've been tested. They've been tried out. They are still the best cameras. I know it's not perfect. No smartphone camera is perfect. People are like, oh, the iPhone camera. Well, the iPhone camera, it has issues with the zoom. Whenever I try and switch from my regular zoom, like to the telephoto, I was getting it was taking 5-6 seconds. Sometimes it would be blurry. It wouldn't focus in. My camera app has frozen and crashed on me several times. You still get the little green flying saucers when you take video and pictures at night. So it ain't perfect. Just like the portrait mode in this one is not perfect. Just like there can be some issues switching between lenses. No camera system on any phone is perfect, but across the board, when it comes to photography, it's still the best. I mean, shoot, the cinematic slow-mo and the studio microphones, and that's an underrated topic, and the studio microphones on the iPhone are very good, and it still, I think, has the best overall video. Even though I think that the selfie camera video on this one is better, the selfie camera is amazing on the Pixel 9 Pro, Pro XL, and they made tremendous strides, I think, across the board. They've gotten better at video. The active noise suppression on the audio when you use the microphones on this phone is incredible. And it's got the motion stabilization. Like, it's got a lot of neat things. But the biggest criticism always is the chip. And granted, the last couple of years, the Tensor 1, Tensor 2, Tensor 3, like, yeah, those have had problems. The 1 and 2 particularly, the 1 definitely. The second one sure had issues. And I felt like they were kind of lazy with the Tensor 3. But the Tensor 4 kind of went back to the drawing board a little bit. We got the 3.15 gigahertz processor, finally over 3 gigahertz. It's been good with gaming performance. Are you going to get 100 frames per second on PUBG versus like 90 frames per second? You know, maybe not. But I don't look at gaming as a serious metric for phone of the year. It is a metric. It's a value, but I would rather have a better camera or I'd rather have better AI. Like, so people are like, oh yeah, the benchmarks, they suck. Okay, well, the only thing that really shows up on is somebody mentioned video editing on the phone, which I'm sure some people do. I'm not going to insult somebody. I don't edit videos on my phone. I have a laptop or a computer or a tablet for that stuff. It's just terrible trying to edit a video on a tiny screen. Granted, if it's a short or something like that, yeah, you can do that stuff just fine. But that stuff works great. But at top of the line, like AAA gaming, maybe you get a little bit of a performance bump, or maybe you get better optimization for PUBG or Genshin Impact, but it runs those things just fine. Plus, we've got 16 gigs of RAM. That's a whole lot better than Apple and their 8 gigs. And we're going to run into issues with that too, because one of the biggest things with the AI implementation is it needs 8 gigs of RAM. That's why only the 15 Pro and Pro Max and newer have it, because they have 8 gigs. It's not like they learned anything new with the 16. It still has 8. So that's the bare minimum. We had issues with 8 for Gemini Nano, their AI model to run on device. And we're not even really talking on device AI with Apple. So yeah, they're giving you these basic crappy stuff that they're rolling out for free. But I think in 2 or 3 years, we'll run into more limitations. And then it's like, oh, you got to upgrade your iPhone again because it's not future-proof for RAM. So that's a big, strong consideration there. Siri is dirt compared to Gemini and the Google Assistant. So what do you want? What would you rather have? Would you rather have slightly better gaming performance, or would you rather have much better AI or RAM or different things like that? So it's kind of a trade-off. So yes, gaming is something, and I play games on here. I play SimCity, I play Boom Beach, I play a myriad of different stuff. So you can play any average to above average game flawlessly, no problem. Plus it's got the vapor chamber now. It has better battery life. It has better signal. This is the most improved phone of this year. So, and that's stuff I want to look at too. Like when I talk about the iPhone and the Samsung, they're being iterative updates. They are. They just slapped a new badge on it, changed the edges a little bit, whatever. Google went back to the drawing board. All new camera setup. They've made the thermometer better. For people who use it. I mean, it's supposed to be a lot better. I don't really check temperature and things, but build quality, design, improved, changed. Cameras, improved, changed. Got the ultrasonic fingerprint scanner. So if you want to go, oh, yeah, the iPhone, it's got better benchmarks. It ain't got no ultrasonic fingerprint scanner. You can't use your facial recognition with your Samsung with your banking apps. So for every one off with another phone that you go, oh, well, that's all people really have. When it comes to the Google Pixel, that's all really people have is people want to hate on the Tensor. And the Tensor 4 is a good chip. And I've mentioned this so many times, it improved the 3 things I said it needed to fix: battery, heat, and signal. All 3 of those things way better across the board. It has better signal even than the iPhone 16 Pro Max, definitely better than the iPhone 15. Oh my gosh, the antenna in the iPhone 15 and 15 Pro series is terrible. Like, it's horrible. 14 too. So when you look across the board, yes, I know that they had a price increase, but for the premium level stuff they offer, 7 years of support, I mean, that's basically what you get with the big 3. You look at Apple, I think theirs is like 6 or whatever. I don't know if they have an official stance, but it's like 6, 7. And Samsung is now 7 years. And you could say, well, Samsung has a leg up whenever it comes to the S Pen Index. Surely it does. Like the S Pen, you can't get that with the Pixel. You can't get DeX. But I think maybe even a minority of people even use DeX. I mean, there's even rumors the S25 won't have DeX, which it won't really hurt my feelings too much. I think it has more application for tablets than it does for phones. but it's still there. But what would you rather have? Would you rather have the Google Pixel camera, or would you rather have an S Pen? Because the camera on the Pixel kicks Samsung's butt in many different departments. So, there's a lot of trade-offs when it comes to this stuff. But Samsung, they get their AI from Google. It's rebadged, rebranded Google stuff. Granted, they take some stuff to the next level. And the interpreter app on Samsung is better than Live Translate on Google by far and away. So it's not simply always just a straight conversion over, right? So there's a lot of different things. I mean, Apple has its shortcomings. Samsung has its shortcomings. This phone has its shortcomings as well. No phone is perfect. And I will never say any phone is perfect. I mean, at the end of the day, Google still makes this phone, which is one of the biggest problems because, Google's had so many frustrations over the past few years. They're always killing stuff off. They don't inspire a lot of buyer confidence. But another thing I want to talk about is feedback. So a lot of people are really happy with the S24 Ultra. There was a lot of complaining in the beginning because people are like, oh, the screen, it looks grainy, I don't like the anti-reflective display, I do like it, whatever. I've had less complaints. I've seen far and away less complaints on the Pixel 9 series phones than I have on the Samsung and definitely the iPhone. But I've never seen so many people switch over. And it's funny because I'll make a video about the Pixel and people are like, nobody's buying a Pixel. Okay, buddy. They've basically almost tripled their market share in just 4 months. People are buying them. I'm seeing them in a lot more places. I travel. I see them on boats. I see them on trains. I see them on planes. I see them a lot of different places. So they're getting traction. But another limiting factor is they're just not that well supported outside the U.S. There's still so many markets you can't get them in. And I don't talk about this too often because I'm primarily U.S. based. So that's another reason why I want to focus this in on U.S. It's hard for me to say that this phone is better than, let's say, the Vivo X200 Pro, or it's better than the Oppo Find X8 Ultra. The Oppo Find X8 Ultra looks amazing, right? Or I can't really compare it to the OnePlus 13 because, well, it's not out in the U.S. yet. There's the Chinese model that's out. So there are phones overseas that I could foreseeably match up and say, okay, maybe this could be better. And there are certain illustrations, especially the Oppo, amazing camera system. These new phones with the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor, surely, in many ways, that's a lot better than a Tensor 4. So that's why I narrow this down, mostly my audience, where I buy and use phones in the U.S., and say, I think the Pixel 9 Pro XL across the board is the best phone of the year, 2024 in the United States. Globally, we could have some discussion. But then we'd have to also talk about Huawei. I mean, great phones, but kind of blacklisted here. I can't even hardly get them. So inevitably, in the comment section, someone's going to be like, oh, the Huawei phone's better. Maybe it is. I can't get one. Or if I do, I got to pay out the wazoo, and then it doesn't have Google services, and you got to do all these other things for me to use it over here. Not really supported on the networks all that well. Or, same thing with an Oppo phone. Yeah, it was great, but does it have 7 years of support? Can I get it fixed in year 3 if something goes wrong? No, not really, right? So across the board in the United States, I think the Pixel 9 Pro XL, 9 Pro, either one, kind of interchangeable. The 9 Pro XL, larger screen, bigger battery, so it is slightly differentiated. So I think the Pro XL is the best. Now, I do love the Pro. The 9 Pro, one of the biggest phones that's shown up this year in so many big ways for a normal size phone because it just doesn't exist. Take a look in the United States in the Android department. What kind of phones offer a pro level, maxed out level phone in a smaller form factor? They don't. You've got the iPhone 16 Pro and you got the Pixel 9 Pro. So in that space, I mean, if you're looking in that space, the S24 Ultra is probably not even on your radar, right? So there's a lot of different things. But based off of all the things that I've discussed, my thoughts, feelings, my interaction with viewers and people who are buying it, my experience, the overall things that the phone brings to the table, Pixel 9 Pro XL, I think phone of the year. And you can go in the comments and be like, oh, you're just a Pixel fanboy. I'm not. I mean, I've made so many people mad over the last couple of years because I've had negative things to say. I don't have a problem saying what needs to be said. If I need something is critical that I feel the need to say about Google, I will, or Samsung, or Apple. I have said this before. I'm an equal opportunity hater. Nothing is safe. And to my detriment, I'm sure sometimes it doesn't get me invited places. It doesn't get me sent things, but my accountability and my integrity are here with my audience. And say what you want. I've outlined my reasons on why I think it's the best. So that's all I've got. If you have any questions, comments, gripes, concerns, complaints, all that stuff, I know you will. Go to the comment section. We'll talk about it. We'll fight it out. And let me know what you think. What is your phone of the year? And spell it out. Let me know why. What is your favorite phone? I mean, I love the Sony Xperia 1 Mark 6. If it were available in the US and it had longer term support and some other things, yeah, I mean, maybe it could even be phone of the year. But it's hard for me to say that a phone you can't even get in the US is phone of the year. I mean, I love that phone. I love the Sony Xperia 1 Mark 6. But just because that may be my favorite phone this year, does that mean it's the best? No, it doesn't. So that's all I've got. If you enjoyed the video, if you like this stuff, please, of course, hit the like and the subscribe button. I'm generally good about making videos every day, unless I go on a cruise and I have basically no internet for a few days. And then it's kind of hard for me to upload videos. So basically, absent an act of God or me dying or being stuck at sea, just generally daily videos. So if you like that stuff, if you want to see how much my hairline recedes over the next year, dial in. Stay tuned for this stuff. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching. And I'll see you guys next time.